The death of Ken McElroy has long been one of the most fascinating mysteries in American history since his murder in 1981. The story is notable not because McElroy's death is shrouded in mystery, but that the extent of its cover-up included an entire Missouri town. Since arriving in the small town of Skidmore, Missouri, McElroy had made a reputation for himself as a town bully. He was arrested on counts of dozens of felonies over the course of decades, but none of the charges ever stuck, and McElroy was never sentenced. His crimes ranged from burglary to arson, to statutory rape to weaponized assault. He married multiple times and met and impregnated his final wife, a girl named Trenna, when she was 13 years old and entering high school. The events leading up to McElroy's murder were nothing short of dramatic. After a feud with local farmer Romaine Henry ended with McElroy shooting Henry in the neck with a shotgun, McElroy was quickly arrested. Henry survived the assault and planned to press charges when McElroy was released on bail. McElroy traveled to a nearby tavern to get drunk as the townspeople of Skidmore rallied together outside the bar. McElroy, along with his wife Trenna, exited the tavern and got in his truck to get away when he was suddenly shot by two different firearms and killed. In the crowd of nearly 40 people who arrived to confront McElroy, no one came forward with the news of who it was that murdered the bully. To this day, the town has a veil of secrecy, refusing to give up the individual who finally ended one man's reign of terror. One of the United States' scariest unresolved serial killer cases involves an individual known only as the Axeman. In May of 1918, in New Orleans, Louisiana, the city was rocked by a string of murders involving Italian-American individuals who were found with their bodies violently mutilated by axes. The police found themselves at a loss for the identity of the killer and posed multiple theories. The first of which was that the Axeman was an assassin, hired by the local mafia to dispose of individuals caught in the middle of mob dealings. The second theory posed that the Axeman was only interested in murdering women, and only murdered men when they obstructed the killings of their female counterparts. The final theory, and arguably the most bizarre, came in the form that the Axeman killed in order to promote an out-of-control obsession with jazz music. This theory gained momentum after the Axeman himself wrote a letter to the public, instructing that on the next evening of his nightly prowl, he would not murder anyone playing loud jazz music in their home. From the Axeman's letter, "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it on Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe." That Tuesday night, hundreds of individuals attended jazz balls and dance clubs all around the city for fear that they would be targeted. It was never discovered if the Axeman himself wrote the letter or not. April 12, 1981, Northern California. At 7:45 a.m., 17-year-old Shalia Sharp returned to the cabin that her family had been renting for over a year. When she entered the living room, she discovered a gruesome sight. Her mother, brother, and brother's friend had been brutally murdered and tied together with medical tape and electrical wire. Her younger sister Tina was nowhere to be seen. The police were called, but in their investigation they found no clues to who murdered the Sharp family. They had been beaten and bludgeoned to death with multiple hammer-like instruments, and the police estimated that whoever had taken Tina had likely killed her as well. This theory was confirmed when in 1984 Tina's skull and bones were found 29 miles away from their original murder site in Keddie. The police estimate that there were two killers at the scene, and an anonymous call clued them into two male perpetrators that were sketched up by the officers. While the case was reopened in 2016, no new leads have led to any new suspects or arrests. Entangled in a web of multiple shootings, freak accidents, and eerie coincidences is the disappearance of teenagers Loria Biblay and Ashley Freeman in 1999. After celebrating Ashley's 16th birthday at her family's mobile home, a mysterious double murder took place in the early morning hours. Ashley's mother and father were shot and killed, and Loria and Ashley disappeared without a trace. The killer set fire in the trailer in an effort to destroy the evidence of his or her crimes. Ever since, police have been at a loss to explain the disappearances, but multiple theories and suspects have arisen. Most popular is the theory that a disgraced police officer and his brother killed Ashley Freeman's parents and kidnapped the girls. A year earlier, Ashley's brother Shane Freeman was pulled over after reportedly driving a stolen car. Responding officer David Hayes reported that Shane quickly reached into the back seat to pull out a gun, but Hayes fired into Shane's body, killing him instantly. While Hayes was exonerated from any wrongdoing on account of self-defense, his reputation was tarnished as the family claimed Shane would not have pulled a weapon on the officer. The officer is reportedly a favorite subject of the surviving families of the missing girls, though he passed a polygraph test when questioned about their disappearance. The case remains cold to this day. The Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles is known for its violent and terrifying history of housing multiple serial killers and rapists. But in 2013, the hotel hosted its most bizarre and horrifying event yet. 21-year-old Canadian tourist Eliza Lamb was considered by her friends to be one of the nicest and most rational people they had ever known. But when she checked into the hotel on January 26th, her behavior seemingly changed. She was reported missing on February 1st. The last anyone saw of Lamb was security footage of her entering an elevator and acting erratically. In the footage, she peers around the door as though she is being followed. At the time of the video, police suspected that she had become involved in drugs. After Lamb exited the elevator, she presumably entered her hotel room and vanished into thin air. Until 19 days later, guests of the hotel began complaining about the taste and look of their water. The tap water had become black and gray, with a horrible scent and taste. They quickly investigated the water tank located on the hotel's roof and discovered Lamb's decomposing body at the bottom. Police were quick to look into how she had gotten on the roof, as drowning seemed to be the cause of death. An autopsy report showed that Lamb had not ingested any drugs at the time of her death, and while almost everyone involved in the case suspects murder, the death is currently attributed to being an accident. In a small German farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck in 1922, a massacre took the lives of the 5 individuals in the Gruber family, as well as their maid. But it was the events beforehand that led this case into mysterious territory. 6 months before the family's murder, the previous maid left in a fit of frenzy, claiming that the house was haunted. The family patriarch Andreas Gruber hired a new maid named Maria, but began noticing strange occurrences himself. The first came when Andreas discovered a line of tracks leading from the nearby forest to the farmhouse, though he never found any tracks leading back away from the farm. He would then hear strange noises at night, including muffled conversation. Then the house keys went missing. Finally, on the evening of March 31st, the Gruber family was massacred. The police investigation could come up with no leading suspects. They believed that the Gruber family was lured to the barn outside the home at various stages of the night, and each person in the Gruber family was decapitated there. The killer then returned to the house and murdered the new maid. Even more eerie, the police suspected that the killer lived in the house with the Gruber family in secret for over a month, watching them and plotting his horrible crimes. He then stayed after murdering everyone and fed the family horses for a few days. The case was reopened in 1986, but authorities never broke any new ground, and the case once again ran cold. Often cited by conspiracy theorists as proof the Oklahoma City bombings were a construct of left-wing political ideologies, the death of Officer Terry Yaki is technically solved, but raises more questions than answers. On the morning of April 19, 1995, minutes after bomber Timothy McVeigh blew up the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, Terry Yaki rushed to the scene of the crime to help survivors escape the rubble. However, as he was there, he said he noticed strange instances of individuals in hazmat-like suits entering the building's debris and removing various elements of metal and plastic without helping anyone who survived the blast. It was reported that Yaki ignored these individuals and went on to help those who needed it. Because of his bravery, he was to be issued a Medal of Valor. However, after Yaki, who was training to become part of the FBI at the time, told his FBI supervisors what he had seen at the bombing site, he began to grow paranoid for reasons undisclosed. He told his friends that he had stumbled onto something big and was gathering information to put in his storage facility. On the evening of May 9, 1996, Yaki visited with a friend at dinner and informed them he was planning on turning over valuable information to his police force. However, he failed to let his friend know what that information was. The two agreed to meet the following day. The next morning, Yaki's body was discovered in a field. He had been stabbed multiple times in his car, then wandered out 30 yards into the field and reportedly shot himself in the head. Despite this claim, no gun was ever found. The autopsy ruled Yaki's death as suicide. Yaki's family has since come out and railed against the investigation of his death, but no real answers have been found.